Hey folks, it is day 3, and today we are going to be talking about some motivational hacks to help you beat procrastination. Those of you who did not see the intro in the previous videos, I am Coach Shanelle. I am a women's advocate for over 10 years. I started with a workshop series, Building Your Business, which helped women to build business in a down economy. It was during the recession in 2008. Allowed us to come together for a free workshop series where we could learn, grow, and build business together in a strong network. I was able to leverage that workshop series in order to get on video and television and radio, a few gigs, and I was able to launch my coaching practice years later. It developed from me feeling like I needed additional people in my support network, and I was getting trumped up on some things, and it was a hard financial time with the recession, and I wanted to be able to learn and grow together. While I was actually promoting an event that I was doing, I ended up finding out a lot of women were kind of stuck in a rut and trying to get to the next level, but not really having the resources that they needed. And I found out that I was meeting women who could answer each other's problems or questions and provide solutions, but they just didn't know each other. And we all were in the same city. So I got us together in a room and we were able to learn and grow. And several of those women from back in 2008 still have successful businesses going on. Several of them have gone on to launch larger businesses. Several of them have very key partnerships, and they do attribute part of that success to being in building your business. So that is something that I really am proud of. With that being said, you didn't come here to hear about me. You came here to get some procrastination tips. So let's get into it. Again, today we're doing 7 motivational hacks to help you beat procrastination. So let me run those things down for you, right? Okay, so the first one is to start small. So we dealt with this a little bit yesterday. We were talking about being able to have some quick wins, right? And to start mini tasks. And so part of our lesson today inside of our hub for the challenge is teaching you how to start small and to break things into mini tasks, right? So that you can have quick wins. And why do we do that? We talked about and covered it yesterday, but just to recap, it is because sometimes our goals seem way too big, and that can allow us to feel overwhelmed. In order for us to be able to accomplish those things and to be able to get a quick win where we're able to see some progress, we sometimes need to break that larger goal into bite-sized pieces, right, that we can attack and be able to get on ready to go, right? And so sometimes it's about just starting small, right? And so maybe your goal is a fitness goal. And so your small step might be that you write down the things that you eat, right? Maybe your goal is that you want to be able to be profitable. So your first goal is to make sure that you're doing something geared towards money making a few times a week, right? And so maybe you're not going to hit that $1 million goal right away, but if you're geared towards and focusing on your time on income generating opportunities, you will get further ahead, right? And so when you start to see money coming in as a result of the effort that you put into it, then you'll start to see yourself getting closer and closer to maybe making that $1 million, right? $1 million is just one large goal that can be broken down into smaller pieces. And then if you stay at it and you have a scalable business, it is a goal that you can get to. I do know quite a few millionaires who started out in business not quite so long ago, and they did take time. And what they said was that it was literally about taking it one step at a time and breaking it down into smaller pieces and staying committed and remembering what their why was when they started to get discouraged, and to not procrastinate, right? And so if that's your goal, we need to start small, right? Our second one is to set a timer and go, right? So if you break stuff into a mini bite-sized piece, right? Sometimes it is we're not going to do it until we have something pushing us, right? And so, like for me, I do not like to wash dishes. I can't stand it. I can't stand washing dishes. I also can't stand doing laundry. I don't know what it is. I think it may be something from childhood. I don't know. Am I the only one? Do anybody else like doing laundry? If I do laundry, then I don't want to put it up. And if I see the dishes piled up, I don't like it. We have a dishwasher, so sometimes I use the dishwasher. But some things, you need to kind of scrub, right? Because I like to cook. And so I don't like to do the dishes. But sometimes you can actually get things accomplished by setting a timer, right? So you'll say, I can allow myself 15 minutes to do this. And then you could actually set the timer on your phone and do 15 minutes. Why? Because that's going to get you closer to accomplishing it, right? So 15 minutes on laundry is actually pretty good, right? That's enough for you to sort the clothes, to put the clothes in the washer, to put them and let them, put the detergent in there with it and allow them to get going. And 15 minutes could be enough for you to pull the clothes out, to get them folded, and maybe even get them into a drawer, right? If you're an overachiever. No, I'm kidding. I know there's some people who wash their clothes and put them in the drawers and all of that all in one cycle, but I'm not that person. Now, do I get it done eventually? Yes. Do I get it done on the same day? No. Because I break it down into bite-sized pieces, right? And so sometimes you actually do need to set a timer and go, right? And what do I mean? Like, maybe you're a person who doesn't like to do videos, but you'll do a video on Facebook Live if you can keep it down into 10 minutes. So maybe it might be that you'll do 10 minutes of video, and once 10 minutes is up, you cut yourself off, and that's it. And sometimes you got to do that, and you got to do it scared, right? Until you get to a point where you're like, okay, now I can go for 15 minutes on video. Now I don't get an anxiety when I go on the video. Now I feel comfortable in front of the camera, right? And so it's because you took that little time, set a timer, and go, right? And so sometimes it's more about just pushing yourself to do it by attacking it in a small fragment, right? So that's number 2. 3 could be that sometimes you just really need a reward, right? You need to be able to have replace that feeling that you might have, which is kind of resistance, or having a bit of a not so nice feeling when you're getting tested and pulled and tried when you're experiencing those growth symptoms, right? That get you out of your comfort zone and get you moving forward, right? And so sometimes you need to replace that feeling with something that feels good, right? And so when you start to feel good and you start to see progress, we usually are ready and able to move forward, right? And so what do I mean by that? So sometimes it might mean that maybe your goal is to do something that's uncomfortable. So every time when you accomplish that thing, you reward yourself with something. It might be that something small, like, hey, I normally make my coffee at home, but I'm going to go get myself some coffee at the coffee shop, right? And if you are like me and you're a Starbucks person, that could be like $7.50. And so, maybe if I do that laundry, I will get myself a cup of coffee at $7.50, right? Sometimes it might mean that you'll go and do something outside of the house, right? Maybe you're a homebody, and sometimes you like to get out, and you don't necessarily commit to doing that. So you might say, you know what? Since I spent so much time on myself and knocking these things out for my own personal goals, I'm going to go out with the girls today and have a girls' night out. And it's your reward system, right? Sometimes it might mean something that might be a little taxing on your body, right? Maybe your goal is to work out. And in order for you to work out, you have to have something that makes you feel better. So sometimes maybe those muscles might be sore. Maybe your thing might be to get a massage, right? To make that good feeling come back within your body, right? So you're going to deal with some soreness because you're out of shape and you may not have been in the habit of doing it. And maybe you are also like building that muscle mass and that muscle memory. And so maybe you don't really want to go back to the gym because of the soreness and the tightness and the pain that you experience. But maybe your reward system might be to help yourself with massage, right? Sometimes it could be something just for ourselves to make ourselves feel good, and it might not be something that is tangible, right? And so sometimes it might mean that this particular thing can kind of tear at who you are a little bit, right? And so maybe sometimes your goal means that you might face a whole lot of backlash. It might mean that you face a lot of criticism. So your reward system might be something that is for yourself, right? It could be affirmations, right? So your thing might be to get in front of the mirror and to do some affirmations, to say some positive things within yourself, to build your self-esteem back up, right? It could be some things that you do to build your confidence, right? And one of the things that I like to do is power poses, right? And so sometimes I might go into an environment where it might leave me feeling depleted emotionally, or it might make me feel a little bit of anxiety into it. But I know that's something that is testing me and building me up to grow, right? And so before I'll do that particular activity, or after I'll do that, I'll put myself in a power pose. And one of the things I like to do is to do the woman pose. That you're not going to be able to see too good on this camera, but you kind of put your hands on your hip and you kind of stand up like a superhero. That's one of them. And sometimes people like to do the ones where they'll put their hands on top of their heads and kind of stand straight and those sorts of things. But sometimes it might be something that's not actually tangible, but something that can be an activity that allows you to reward yourself, right? So that could be it as well, and it could be self-care things, right? It could be like giving yourself a manicure, or maybe lotioning your body with something, not just lotion. Maybe it might be like some buttercream, or we all have our different reward systems, but figure out what it might be for you, right? But sometimes we just really need we're human, right? And we need to feel good about the things that we're doing. And sometimes change cannot feel good. Sometimes in the initial stages, it might take a little bit of time before you start to see growth, before you start to really feel the effects of that. And sometimes you need a little bit of reward to keep you going along the way, right? So that's number 3. Number 4 is accountability, right? So we talked about this already, right? A little bit, but accountability. So making sure that you are accountable to your goals, and making sure that you have somebody within your support network who can hold you accountable. That could mean that they're texting to check in on you. Accountability can mean somebody you email regularly. It might mean that you spend so many moments on the phone. It might mean that you meet for coffee once a month, or every 2 weeks, to see where you're at on the goal. It could mean for accountability that you don't even have somebody who's making regular progress on you and asking you what you did. But it might mean if they see that you're not progressing, they're the person to be like, why are you not doing it? I thought that you wanted to move forward. I thought that you wanted to do things. And so sometimes accountability can also be somebody who gives you a push, right? It might not mean a daily check-in or a weekly check-in, but it might mean that they just pay attention, and they start to see that you were in a certain mode when you were making progress, and they start to see that you're in a different spot, and they can start to see that maybe you're not doing it anymore. And so they push you to do better, right? And so accountability can also have those things as well, right? So accountability is number 4. Number 5 is about tracking your progress, right? And so being able to really to see where you are, to track your progress on your goals, to have a mechanism for being able to chart your progress is going to help and save you so much time and motivate you to move forward, right? What do I mean? What was one of the first ways in which we were motivated when we were kids? Do any of y'all remember the gold stars? Okay. Do you remember elementary school when you got to have the little gold and the silver stars, when you realized you went up to get your grades from the teacher or get your little report cards, and they might have had the little stars next to your name, and you just felt good about yourself because you were like, look at all them stars, right? Or maybe your thing was that you got the little pencil, right? The perfect attendance pencil. Or you got the little certificate for the book club because you read too much. Now, I remember when a kid, there was one thing that I did do well, and that was the book reading competition. When we had the bookathon, honey, now I shined, okay? Because I always had my certificates. Now, I cannot do a ton of things well. I told y'all before, I wasn't coordinated, I wasn't an athlete, right? But the bookathon, honey, that was me. I was the reader, okay? And I had all these certificates for the bookathon because I was reading these books, and it just made me feel so good about myself because all these other kids had all these really big skills sets, and they seemed to know who they were and what they needed to do when they were just young. And I couldn't do it. I mean, I couldn't run, I couldn't jump, I couldn't do the sports, I couldn't hang from the monkey bars, right? I just couldn't get that stuff. I still can't do things that need a lot of coordination to this day, and I'm okay with that. But it's just kind of funny to me because I never quite got it, and it just seemed like it's something that most kids got. But I could do the bookathon, and that certificate helped me to affirm who I was and to realize that it was something I was good at, right? And so sometimes it is about tracking your progress. What are some other ways in which we got tracked our progress, right? Sometimes it might be that you got your preliminary results, or like a quarterly report. Maybe you got a review at a job. Also, might mean that if you have a monetary goal, you might be checking your numbers and seeing where you're supposed to be for that month, and realizing you didn't do enough yet, right? Maybe it's a rough patch. You haven't sold anything. Maybe it's that you haven't even tried to sell anything. Maybe it could mean that you just are going a different direction in your business, and you're starting to see that things are just not coming together like you planned for them to do, right? And so you're starting to look at things and realizing that maybe your content's not resonating with people anymore. Maybe you're feeling tugged to go in a different direction, right? So sometimes tracking can also be something that's not necessarily just numbers or something that you write down, but it could be a gut feeling, right? And so being able to track your progress is going to really help you to be able to beat procrastination, right? Okay, and then our number, that was number 5, tracking. Number 6 is visualizing. Okay, so one of the most popular things that I happen to do with women in coaching practice and in classes that I teach at church is vision boards. Are vision boards so popular? Okay, for a number of reasons, the vision boards are popular. One, that they look beautiful, right? So people are allowed to really express themselves and to be creative and to problem solve through creativity. One of the classes that I actually teach is called Art and Faith. I've been teaching it. This is our 3rd installation at my local church. Those of you who aren't familiar with me, I'm a church leader. And that is one of the classes that I teach. And it allows you to learn and connect with other women, to realize that you guys are going through very similar struggles, and to allow you to creatively problem solve. So we do devotional time, we do small group discussion, and we do an art project. It allows us to de-stress, to connect, to grow, and to learn from each other, right? And one of the things that we do is vision boards. Now, another reason why vision boards are very popular, not just that they're beautiful, right, is because it allows you to actually see what is inside of your head, right? So a lot of us get tripped up, especially women. We get tripped up on our thought process, right? So we can overthink things. We can feel like we don't know where we're going. We can feel like we don't know what we want. We can feel like we're tied in multiple different directions. And sometimes it's not so much that you're going in a bunch of different directions. They all have underlying themes, right? And so when you start to put those things onto paper, you start to see your thought process a little bit more clear, right? And also, once you have a visual, it allows you to be able to hold something to that goal. Now, the way that the mind works is it allows you to be able to store things in your memory, right? And so sometimes you need different mechanisms to allow you to be able to retrieve that info later on. And a visual can be one of those things. Another process that I recently learned and I've been practicing on is called anchoring. And so it's when you set something in your mind, or you're trying to set something in your mind, like a goal or maybe an affirmation, that you can anchor that particular thing within your mind by tying it to a visual, tying it to a scent, right? Like a spray of cologne, right? Or it might be tying it to a sound, right? But you use one of your other senses to be able to tie that particular goal. So when you have that thing that you encountered during that time, when it resurfaces or you encounter it another time, that it allows you to recall what your goal is or affirmation is that you put within yourself. So what do I mean? Well, your thing might be that you want to feel powerful when you're going to pitch, right? And so maybe before you go to pitch, you spray a perfume on yourself. So one of the scents that I like to use is called Portfolio. It makes me feel very feminine and also powerful at the same time, right? It has some floral notes to it, but it also has some strong notes in it as well. And it allows me to feel like a very powerful but feminine woman, right? And so when I'm in a space and I encounter that scent, it automatically puts me into a moment where I feel confident, where I feel powerful, where I feel like I have my stuff together. I'm able to present and to pitch easier when I smell that scent. Another example of that is sometimes when people are renting a house, when realtors get people into a house, they might put scents that remind people of a comfortable home to anchor them to feel comfortable in that spot. What do I mean? Chocolate chip cookies, right? They bake cookies inside the oven, so that smell of chocolate chip cookies just reminds you of home, reminds you of warmth, reminds you of comfort. So some people who might not necessarily feel comfortable in that home that they're touring will feel comfortable because that chocolate chip cookie smell was something that triggered and it anchored them to memories of comfort, right? It could mean that you have a vanilla scent in your house when you're trying to do your mindset work or your affirmations. Vanilla is one of those scents that I really love because it reminds me of my grandmother's cooking, right? She would use vanilla in her pies, and she would use also coconut extract, coconut scents and stuff can also make me feel very calm and supported and relaxed because it reminds me of my grandma, right? And so anchoring and visualization and those different things allows you to really bring those things back to remembrance. And it's a reinforcement of what your goals are, right? And sometimes we need to see those things, or we need to have another mechanism to remind us of what is important to us, right? And so that is number 6 to visualize. And our last is number 7, and that is to start strong, right? And starting is the biggest step that you can make towards your goals, right? Most people, just like we talked about this the other day, is most people really fail because they do not even get started, right? And what is worse than a slow start is no start, right? And so what I want you guys to do is to really make sure that you're being intentional about where you want to go, and making sure that you are really following the strategies that we're providing inside of this challenge, to make sure that you're starting strong, right? What do I mean starting strong? Making sure that you are actually in alignment with the goal, right? That's one way to start strong. Making sure that you understand what the action steps are to get you there, right? Making sure that you have the resources and the tools that you need, or you have access to those things, right? Because sometimes those things are not tangible, but you have access to them, which means you have to make a step, right, to access those tools and to put them into practice, right? But making sure that you start strong, and then also making sure that you have support along the way that you need. That might be an accountability partner, it might be your support system, your spouse, your partner, your family member, your business bestie, whoever it is for you. Making sure that you also have support along the way, right? And then also making sure that you have the time allotted to do these things, right? Why? Because you need to prioritize things, right? And so oftentimes we aren't suffering from a lack of time. We're suffering from a lack of boundaries, right? Overcommitting ourselves, being very, very busy but not productive, right? And why do I say busy but not productive? Well, sometimes you can be very committed to different activities, right? But they may not necessarily be the best thing for you at that moment, right? And so one of the things that I think that women can oftentimes ask themselves that could really help them to get out of situations is saying, what is my priority, right? Before you commit to something, really repeating to yourself, what is my priority? And if those things are not in line with your priority, it might not be necessarily the best thing for you at this time, right? And also saying, is this in alignment with me and what my greater purpose is, right? And sometimes the things that we're doing, it's just not in alignment, right? And it might look good. It might be something that a lot of people are doing. It might look good on paper. It might be even something that you're naturally skilled to do, but you just don't like doing it, right? Sometimes some things that we are naturally skilled to do may not be the greatest next move for us. Sometimes we actually need to stretch ourselves into growing to be able to learn some new skills and learn some new patterns and learn some new habits. And so sometimes it might be something that you're naturally skilled towards, and it may not resonate with you anymore, right? We're constantly learning and growing and evolving as people, and sometimes you need to give yourself the space to learn yourself, to grow, and to really understand what drives you, which your strong suits are, and what things also trip you up, right? And so let's recap, right? So the first hack, right, was for you to start small, right? Break it into mini tasks so that you can be able to have some quick wins. Number 2, set a timer and go, right? Making sure that you are able to be able to time things and knock them out in small increments, like 15 to 20 minutes, right? So if sometimes you really need to set that timer on your phone, or maybe you might have the old school like egg beater timer where you gotta crank, 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 and then it actually rings. I'm sorry, but those buzzer sounds really, like, for some reason they rattle me. I don't know what it is, but I'm like, ooh. But that might be something that works for you. So it could be really setting an actual timer. It could be your stopwatch on your cell phone. All of us have a cell phone, right? So it could be your stopwatch. And number 3 was to reward yourself, right? To figure out something that allows you to have good feelings associated with that particular goal. Now, remember, a reward can be something that's tangible, like something that you can purchase or hold. It can also be something that you say to yourself, maybe something that you can do for yourself that may not cost you anything but your time, right? But rewards can come in a bunch of different ways, right? So finding the reward system that works for you. Number 4, accountability, right? Making sure that you have somebody to hold and come alongside you, hold you accountable to what your greater goals are, right? And those things that are in alignment with your greater purpose. And 5, tracking, making sure that you're keeping track of how productive you are and where you are doing in progress wise towards your goals. And 6. Ooh, oh Lordy. Can y'all see this? This camera. It was a 6 at some point. Y'all know sometimes technology don't work with you, but 6. And I'm gonna keep that in. Why? Because everything is not perfect. I'm not one of those people. So if you're one of those people who sits back and looking for a video to be perfect, honey, this is not the challenge for you. Okay. But 6, making sure that you visualize the things that you need, right? And we also talked about anchoring and some mechanisms for anchoring things to make sure that they come back to your remembrance. So visualizing could be something that you have written. It can mean a vision board. It can mean an actual visual, like a picture or image. And in our activity today, it talks about visualizing and actually taking that step. So you're going to actually do that today. Make sure that you complete that task because we just talked about how essential it is, right? So make sure that you go and do your task, right? And then our last one, which is number 7, is to make sure that you start strong, right? You're never going to get there if you don't start. And there's nothing worse than a slow start is actually to not start at all, right? And so we want you to get started. We want you to start strong by making sure that you are accountable to your goals, make sure that they're in alignment and something that you actually are committed to doing, making sure that you allot the time to do those things. You have a mechanism for being able to chart your progress, that you are armed with the resources and the tools that you need, and that you have a support system to hold you accountable along the way. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. This video's been a little bit long. Make sure that you look at the material for today. If you have questions, reach out at the support email. And make sure that you complete your task so that we're continuing to make progress along the way. See you tomorrow, folks. Take care. Bye.